Okay, so how, just by practicing, does yoga work to heal? This is a question. There are many who immediately feel benefited by yoga. So often you hear the comment, I feel so much better now than I was when I came in. So we have this situation where yoga is certainly benefiting people. It is also becoming a healing for people. And in a lot of instances, it's turning out to be a cure for various ailments. It's this middle line of healing, how yoga heals, that I'm going to talk about on this talk. The main way, I'm going to leave how it cures or whether it does cure and what diseases it cures. I'll have to leave that one up to scientific study and research, of which there's a lot. So, the way in which it heals is quite mysterious. We all feel it, but how did that happen? We are ourselves, we need to realize that we are beyond our breath, we are beyond, we are more than our energy, we are more than our body, our mind, our arms and legs. We are more than our own intelligence. We are more than the life choices we make. We are more than the ideals and the beliefs that we hold. Even there are aspects of us that are beyond our morals, beyond our morality, beyond our emotions. There's many aspects to our existence which is way beyond all of those things. When everything is well and all of our life is coordinated, all those different levels that I've just mentioned are working well together, then everything's fine. We feel the wellness. But if one small aspect isn't, then the whole unit, our whole life becomes discordant, becomes more difficult to manage. It becomes unbalanced. We feel some degree of disconnect. We may be shaken because of the ill virtuous action or unskillful action that we might, not intentionally, but in the heat of the moment, end up undertaking. We feel disconnected, we feel discontent, we feel conflict from that. That conflict itself can lead us towards situations, illness, or unhappiness that wears on us. So there are many ways that we can say that there are many ways in which it's very easy for us to arrive at that state of disconnect. Yoga, which is what we are questioning, how does it work for healing? Yoga has always been a very holistic subject. Its effect is to unite and to unify all those parts that I've mentioned, all those parts of our life. And this is found to be true with, and oftentimes the benefits of yoga occur just by the practice of them. So it's the way that it does this, that just by practicing yoga, we feel the benefit of yoga, that makes yoga more unique than other physical exercise regimes or any of the myriad body healing methodologies, though some of them also are actually very valuable. So the real purpose of yoga, when we practice yoga, the purpose isn't actually to acquire or conquer more poses and pranayamas. The purpose of yoga is actually to evolve ourselves through four main areas of our being. Because we are not actually an end product in ourselves. We're not the ultimate pinnacle so far of human evolution, like the end product. We are actually in process. We are part of a continuum. We are simultaneously all of our parts, all of our levels, all of our facets. And yoga is specifically designed to touch and work with those different levels. The yogis who devised the system saw the whole universe as flowing and evolving out of different levels that we can discern. In Indian theory, these different levels are named as Alinga, Lingamatra, Avishesha, and Vishesha. So these are the different levels of our beings. There's an aspect of us which is quite distinguishable. It's quite specific. It's very specific that we have the form, the body, the circulatory system, the respiratory systems, the endocrine systems, that we have all of those systems, and they are a very specific and unique system that already has its own form of coordination. It itself has evolved to be harmonious, but it is only the distinguishable specific level of our being. There is also the non-specific, non-distinguishable, not an arm and a leg, not a circulatory system of veins and heart rates, but there is a much more subtle, non-specific, non-distinguishable aspect of ourselves. Beyond that, we exist in a sphere which is said to be Lingamatra. It's not distinguishable, it's not specific, it's not a thing. It is just signless. It is a state of singularity. So we are this stuff. We are like the universe. We are in ourselves a whole cosmos. We have facets and layers that are easy to discern. Science has already discovered most of them through the mechanics of technology, through microscope and through various devices to discover what is actually already there, but they discovered it and they found much more about its workings. But there are, just like there are microcosms in terms of peering at our body through a microscope, we got to see each particular cell, and we got to see the construction of the cell, and we got to see the genesis of the cell and the proliferation of cells. But there was something before that. There were imprints that arrived along with those cells. Each cell had its own imprint. A singular cell could differentiate to become a cell for bones, a cell for blood, a specified cell for the brain, a specified sensory cell for taste, for seeing, for hearing. So if you can understand just purely in biology, there is this process from the subtle, from the undifferentiated to the differentiated. There must have been something before that. There was. So yoga came about as a way to evolve through all of those different spheres, not just the outer physical manifest sphere, but to also work and effect through the unmanifest, unspecific spheres of ourselves. This project of evolving through all of the spheres and facets, the yogis devised a comprehensive approach, because the approach needed to be able to nourish, nurture, and heal everything that may have been discordant on the outer distinguishable level, but it also needed to be able to contact the non-distinguishable level, the level of perhaps impressions and genetics, the level that gives the wondrous effect of why I, with a Celtic ancestry, looks so different to somebody who is from perhaps a Mongolian ancestry. We look different. How did that differentiation occur? So that differentiation came along with the same genesis as what gave rise to my own birth. So we've got this situation, how to heal and help to evolve through all of those levels. A comprehensive system was evolved by the yoga practitioners, and they formulated it and they settled finally on an enduring system known as Ashtanga. In other words, they said that the process of the practice of yoga needs to occur through 8 levels, not levels, 8 facets. Entering into samadhi, should your good fortune and hard work lead you there, entering into samadhi is one of the things that can quite literally change the habitual thought forms, habits of mind, and if practiced even at the level of concentration and dhyana, can actually, has shown to be able to change brainwave patterns in a regular practitioner of that. Patterns, and I believe even DNA gets changed through the regular pattern, the regular practice of pranayama and asana as well. Generational practice and changes in behavior are shown to get changed through the practice of the yamas and the niyamas. In other words, the ethical observances as well as the undertaking of the auspicious path. I'll talk a bit more about that. So an approach in 8 spheres is what was worked out to be able to contact, to be able to bring about a healing change on all of the gross to subtle levels of our being. And it is the way that this comprehensive approach brings about a healing on all levels of us simultaneously that we get the great benefit. We get a greater benefit than going to the gym. We get a greater benefit than simple exercises. It's the comprehensive approach that makes the difference. That comprehensive approach of yoga is unified And that unification affects us for all of the levels simultaneously. Collectively, the Ashtanga is a comprehensive practice, and it seeps through the various layers of our being. It even changes, people will report this, it changes their ideals. What they hope and aspire to gets changed because they practice yoga. And it's not that they acquire a kind of a greater, better, or to accumulate kind of medals of the self. Their ideals start to become more comprehensive, more inclusive of society, of their family, of their relationships. And it is through that seeping down through the various gross to subtle layers of ourselves that we begin to feel and recognize exactly how yoga is beneficial. Some people begin to feel and get uplifted just through one or two sessions. But for true healing to seep down through all the subtle levels of ourselves, it takes training. It takes more than one or going to one or two classes. Those one or two classes, though very beneficial, will, after 1 or 2 weeks, be at least a very positive memory. But the actual effect of them will start to fade unless a very unique thing to yoga occurs, and that is the practice of it is undertaken. Yoga, the practice of yoga itself invites the dedication to the practice of it. It's not by having a church or a religion or some other moral authority saying this would be good for you if you did it. It's by feeling the effect of practice that we are prompted to go further with it. To touch all those layers, to actually begin to affect our own inner intention, and to realize that we are forming our ideology around this new intention is what we would describe as anusasanam. It's what we would recognize as having undertaken an approach, a beginning to a path, and we feel it, though often can't find the words, we feel its auspiciousness. And again, because it's comprehensive, because we have more than the obvious seeable layers to our being. So through the practice of yoga, we learn to adapt. We learn our own inner state. We begin to observe things about ourselves through the practice of yoga. We learn things like what happens with our mind and even our breath and our muscles, our arms and our legs, when we hold a position more than just for a brief period of time, where we have to concentrate on maintaining the position to be held in one point for a longer period of time. And so it is through the aspect of training through timings that we discover these facets of ourselves. We acquire and develop refinement in how we feel ourselves to be in a good position or a bad position. Yoga is often defined as sthira sukhamasana. So the position of an asana has stability. That doesn't mean that it's inherent that it has stability. It means it builds stability in you, but you also get to experience that stability. And it is a thing that cannot be doubted. You have a certainty that you have experienced yourself in a very stable state. You also get to experience yourself in a state of sukha. Now, sukha is actually a far more mental, pleasurable, beneficial, beneficent state of mind. You get to recognize that that has happened to you. You may, in fact, be having a period of time in your life in which you recognize for yourself, oh gosh, I'm being very negative lately. I really need to change. But it's difficult to change. But sthira and sukha come into your experience. It's not just that they are inherent in the poses that you do. They're not, they become, sthira and sukha become subjective. They become your experience. You have the experience where there's nothing more and nothing less required of any effort or energy. This is sthira sukha. You know, you get to feel yourself as complete. There's not more effort required like there would be in exercises if the position is correct, if the position is well established, and you don't feel the energy driving away, draining away from you. So this is an effort, this is an aspect of yoga practice in which there is the element of precision comes in, where things are not left over or left out. It is a state of completeness. So you arrive at that state with precision, and that state gives you the feeling of poise. I would say, they say the definition of asana is posture. I would say the definition of asana should be poise. This is alignment. We develop creativity. So I'm talking here about qualities that you experience and are developed, that are positive developments that are beyond the physical, structural, physiological body. I'm talking about the more subtle levels of our lives. We develop creativity, especially in the system of Iyengar Yoga, where we get to work with ourselves in conjunction with props, as well as timing, as well as poise and alignment. We develop creative ways of changing and adapting a pose slightly and getting a slightly different effect. We feel more ourselves as being more expanded. We can also, through some poses and sometimes through adaptations, we can get to experience ourselves as being more compact, more of a complete unit, or one that opens beyond the border that we thought we held with ourselves. So we learn to adjust, and in this we are learning And in maintaining the pose, we are learning discretion, we are learning discernment. All of these, when actually discovered as a true experience of practice, will flood throughout the whole of your life. We trace and develop our inner imagination. Through the practice, we are imprinting positive imprints upon our body. We are imprinting into the muscles, into our circulatory system. We are also imprinting into our positive thoughts and ideals. So from the practice, we recollect these things and we collect those impressions that are built within us. We begin to have a storehouse of those positive impressions. We learn to channel our own energy. We learn to hold our energy still. We learn to contain the energy. We learn to store the energy so it's not lost. There are further aspects that we are trained to develop. We are trained to coordinate. We are trained to hold a steady, still point while moving through some aspect of an asana or pranayama. That training in holding a steady, still point is the beginning of pratyahara, is the beginning of the quietening and the stilling of the senses of perception and the mind. We trace the center of our gravity. We learn to become quite dexterous because we have an innate sense of where the middle of our gravity is at all time. We learn to keep balance. We undertake actions of balance, and we train and we take the imprints from those actions. So all of these experiences are true experiences. We witness them. We witness them, and our body, our nervous system, our mind takes the impressions of them. So we have this ability to evolve and to develop and to refine, becoming more and more skillful in understanding and finding our way through these deeper layers of ourself. All of this is done through practice, through abhyasa, which is undertaking the actions of yoga repeatedly, through anusthana, which is the auspicious intention, the intention dedicated to practice, and through sadhana, which is bringing us the holistic aspect of practice, which takes us deeper. We learn and feel the deeper penetration in our lives, and we see the bright awareness, poise, and equanimity that come from it. Thank you.